He's a veteran screen and stage actor best known around the world for his roles in shows like The Wire, Lost, and The Fringe, and movies like Won't Back Down.
Now he's joining Jamie Foxx, Channing Tatum, and Maggie Gyllenhaal in a high-octane action film, White House Down, which opens this Friday. Welcome to the show, Lance Reddick.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. Yay! So first question, why does Hollywood seem intent on destroying the White House?
All right.
Wow.
First Olympus has fallen, and now White House.
Well, you know, Olympus has fallen.
Here?
I mean, it's kind of like the thing where they did two Truman Capote movies at the same year.
Mm-hmm.
So with Olympus has fallen, I just think somebody heard about our movie and figured they'd try to cash in on it first.
Ooh.
But you know,
Trying to cop. Well, it's a form of flattery, right?
Yeah. So they did the B version, and now you're going to see the A version this week.
Well, we can actually take a look right now.
like
We have
that.
a clip. I like the A version.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's take a look.
Sir, we're at DEFCON 1. The nuclear football in the White House just went live.
That's impossible.
It's happening, and someone has just entered valid launch codes.
Captain, on deck! What the hell is going on?
Sir, we have nuclear missiles spinning up on the Albuquerque.
If our allies see us launching a full-scale nuclear strike, they will respond. Russia will launch, China will launch. We'll have World War III in the next 10 minutes unless you level the White House.
4 minutes to target, sir.
Sir, I need a final go, no-go for payload delivery.
Oh, look at that intense.
Were you talking about me or Richard Jenkins? Because his look at them was like,
I know, right? What's going to happen? Well, tell us a little bit about your character. You play a general in White House Down. What drew you to this role, and what else can you tell us about your character?
well, first of all, my character is the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And for some reason, the chairman isn't around. So I'm the top military advisor when all this terrorism stuff goes down. You know, it's interesting. The truth is, I was actually hesitant to do this role at first.
Really, why?
Because I was concerned about being typecast.
What do you mean?
Well, going from Lieutenant Daniels in The Wire to Special Agent Philip Broyles in Fringe, and then kind of playing, you know, a general in an action movie. You know, I was concerned about kind of setting a trend for myself.
But you seem to like the uniform.
And you do it so well.
Well, I got to tell you, this experience was really, I don't mean to sound cliche, but it was really extraordinary for me as an actor. Because it ended up being an ensemble experience. Because most of my stuff was with Maggie Gyllenhaal and Richard Jenkins and Matt Craven in the Pentagon. And so it was just us kind of in our section of the movie, because the movie's really kind of, even though it's one long, you know, action and suspense film, it's really kind of split up into 2 or 3 different locations. And
It's shot in pieces.
And it ping-pongs back and forth between the
Let's talk about your 2-decade-long career. I mean, over the course of these 2 decades, you've managed to play in the television sandbox, the film sandbox, and the stage sandbox. How have you managed to make all of that work? I mean, some actors don't even get the chance to play in one sandbox, and you consistently played in all 3.
Well, it was excuse me, first of all, my training was in the theater. So I started in theater, and it was at a time where that's kind of what actors did. I mean, in the last 10 years, I feel that Hollywood has changed so much. But at the time that I came up, in the 90s, first of all, there was this huge explosion of black talent in Hollywood. Second of all, you know, most of the great actors were coming from the theater. So they were coming from the theater, and maybe they did television on their way to do films. And so that was just what I knew, and that was what I expected. And so fortunately, I've been able to do both. I mean, excuse me, all 3.
All 3? You're a triple threat.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is when I first got out of drama school, I didn't even want to do television.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to do theater and film.
Really?
Yeah.
Because back then, TV was still regarded as something that you frowned your nose upon if you were a serious thespian.
Well, kind of. I mean, movie stars considered it kind of second tier, and stage people considered it, you know, something you did for money. You know, it wasn't until really HBO. I mean, a little bit, you know, because network television was changing in the 90s too. So shows like ER and Aaron Sorkin's show about the
West Wing.
West Wing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But HBO really did change the game.
And Sopranos were really the first. I mean, the Friends stars a little bit, but it was the Sopranos really where the stars of that show were like movie stars. It was like the same.
But see, I was gonna ask you a question, but now that we're here, let's go there.
Okay.
I would argue that Oz really changed the game of television.
Because it definitely pushed the limits.
And you were starred on Oz.
Well, no, there's two different issues.
Okay, well let's go there.
Because I definitely feel that it's funny that you say that because I've said that I've personally said that in interviews before.
Okay, so then we agree.
Yeah,
So then I'm right.
Yes.
Yeah, but The
it's just
Sopranos
that in
came 2 years after
Yeah.
Oz, so it had to kick off something.
But I'm saying it was The Sopranos that really kind of was the tipping point in terms of kind of how, in terms of status for television.
But Oz really...
Because it was the first mainstream hit.
It's
But Oz,
true.
yes, Oz changed television
really,
industry.
it
Oz was
changed-
the show that changed
And
television
it laid
industry.
the blueprint for the
Yeah.
model of what the
Yeah.
shows on HBO would look like, feel like, the
What
grit,
all
the
cable shows,
realism.
yeah.
Yeah, because it was raw like no other show had been before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your character, undercover detective John Basil and Jamaican drug lord Desmond Mobay. Did you have any idea that role would change the trajectory of your career?
It's funny. There's another role where the casting director didn't want to see me for this role.
He did not.
At first.
Why?
And,
You seem tailor-made for this role.
Well, it was just, it was what, at the time, I was just kind of another working actor in Hollywood. And her assistant actually was really good friends with my agent. And she said, Steve, you have to get him in for this. And he bugged her. She said, fine, put him on tape. And I went on tape, and then I was cast from the tape. And yeah, it changed my career.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the most impactful change of your career that really catapulted you to the next level?
Wow. I mean, that's a tough one. I mean,
Because I think, a lot of people, they may not know you as a household name, but you're definitely a household face. When they see
yeah,
you,
I'm always
like,
a
oh,
guy.
yeah, we know him.
Yeah, I'm always like, oh, love you. Like, what's
Yeah, so it's no surprise that you're famous in your own right, that you've been able to have 2 years of longevity. So, was there something that really set it off, and what has been the success behind your longevity and keeping relevant in this industry?
Well, the reason why I hesitated at first is because I feel like my my career's kind of gone like this. It's gone like this.
At least it's still going up.
But so I feel like I've hit a lot of
Okay.
plateaus. I mean, I feel that the role that, Oz was clearly my big break.
Okay.
But I feel that the role that kind of really put me on the map in terms of kind of being a star was Lieutenant Daniels. But that didn't happen until the show was over. Because the show didn't become a kind of a worldwide phenomenon, and Hollywood wasn't really talking about it until it aired its last season.
Okay.
And at the time, I was also on Lost, and I'd just been cast in Fringe. So it was kind of a...
Well, did you have any idea that The Wire would become the cultural phenomenon that it did?
Yes and no.
Really?
As I said earlier, when I first started acting, I never wanted to do television. It's the only television pilot that I ever read that I felt like I have to be on the show.
And you actually auditioned for another role.
I auditioned for 3 roles.
3 different roles.
Yeah, and Daniels was the last role I auditioned for. I auditioned for Bunk 3 times.
Really?
And then I auditioned for Bubbles.
I can't see that.
Well, I'm sure the reason that came about is because David Simon knew me from The Corner, because I played a crackhead in The Corner. Yeah, so in my last
That's
audition,
right.
in my 3rd audition for Bunk, he asked me to read Bubbles, to co-read Bubbles on the spot.
So how did you come to land the role of Daniels?
They didn't want to see me, and for some reason, 2 weeks later, they called me to audition. And I read it, and it's so funny. There was a big monologue that they forgot to send me. So when I get there, she says, next scene. I said, what next scene? And she hands me this page with basically a page monologue. I'm like, so I let me go out and prepare for a minute and come back. So I had to read it cold. Then about a week later, I called my agent. I said, well, what's the deal? He said, they passed. They're looking for bigger names. And so I forgot about it. And then 2 weeks later, I got a call from my agent saying, The Wire, you got it. I said, which role?
Which role?
Right, because I auditioned for 3 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was Daniels.
Well, talk about Daniels a little bit, because he was a little self-contained, but it felt like he can explode at any moment and just start going off.
Yeah, that was Daniels.
How did you prepare for that role and the character, just versatility of everything that he would go through and the emotion that he would display?
Wow. Well, there were a few things. First of all, when we were shooting the pilot, I got the opportunity to spend a day with the narcotics lieutenant.
Okay.
And he's just watching him and observing his energy was really fascinating. But 3 things about him really struck me. One was that he was working toward his MBA at Johns Hopkins. And I found out later, talking to David Simon, that that's, working toward another degree, if you're trying to move up in the ranks of command, is pretty common. Second of all, he talked about an episode where they had to basically arrest a dirty cop, and they burst into the guy's bedroom, and the guy reached for his gun, and he said, "Please do it, because I would love nothing more than to kill you."
You are kidding.
With expletive.
Wow.
Yeah. Whoa. And the third thing was he said, in a lot of ways, being a command lieutenant is like being a parent. So
how so?
In that you have to, discipline has to be tight, but at the same time you really have to care about your people. And he said, whenever I can, I go on raids with my guys, and and occasionally I'm first through the door, so they know that I'm not leaving from behind.
Right, and you're willing to take a bullet for the team.
And so I kind of took all those things into account. And the other thing was just knowing the lines. And the last thing is I just worked out a lot, especially in my heavy bag, just to get that kind of feeling of explosiveness.
Mentally prepared.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, the critics lavished praise on The Wire. They just adored this series, and many have called it one of the best television series that has ever aired. But the awards people didn't give you the same sort of recognition. Now, I know for fans of the show, that was a travesty. What was it like for the cast who put their blood, sweat, and tears into that show week after week?
Oh, we were pissed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I hope
bet.
it's okay to say that word.
It's okay.
Yeah, we were upset. And part of what was so disheartening about it, and quite frankly disgusting about it, is that we were on at the same time as The Sopranos and Sex and the City and 6 Feet Under, which were getting award nominations,
Left and right.
Left and right. So it was
Do you
hard.
think race had something to do with it?
Yes. I personally think race had everything to do with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Why do you say that?
Because it was an instance, I just think that, given that we were on at the same time, it wasn't just that we were snubbed. People weren't. Let me give you an example. When I first moved to Los Angeles in 2005, and that was in between the third and fourth seasons of The Wire. And I met with a manager who I didn't end up working with, but he was a big fan of the show. He was black, and he told me, he said, I can't get my white colleagues to watch that show.
He said that to
Yeah, he
you.
says, I tried it. I keep telling them about it. They just won't watch it. And I just feel like it's a deep-seated psychological thing where it's just like there's just too many black people running around. It's just too many black people running around. It's just I don't relate. Yeah.
Many people at the time said it felt like a documentary.
Yeah.
And you're actually from Baltimore.
Yes, I am.
So how close was reality to fiction? Did that show really capture the city that you know so well?
Well, first of all, yes. But I say yes, but I feel like not necessarily from personal experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like your personal experience of being in Baltimore are far different from some of the characters that we saw on the show, because you went to Yale, you studied drama. I mean, you were classically.
Although I was much later in my
professional.
life. I mean, I came to acting pretty late in my life.
You still were able to escape the streets, if you will, per se. So, in one of your biggest, or I guess first roles, was with Jeffrey Wright as the understudy in Angels in America. What was that experience like? Because it went on to win a huge award, Pulitzer. So, what was that experience like working with him and working with the cast and Tony Kushner as well?
Well, actually, it's funny. I learned the role from Jeffrey, but I actually understudied his replacement. So when I came on as I replaced his understudy, who left when Jeffrey was leaving. Jeffrey did the show for a month, won the Tony Award, then left. The show.
I'm good.
And Kevin Carroll and I had both just graduated. Kevin had just graduated from NYU, and I just graduated from Yale. And so I was Kevin's understudy. And Kevin never missed a show, so I never went on.
Wow. That kind of sucks.
Now,
Well, kind of, but it was. I'm sorry, but it was to watch Jeffrey, and Kevin was great, but to watch Jeffrey do that role, I'm kind of speechless. I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to say I haven't seen the film, But if his performance in the film was anything, and he won a Golden Globe, so I'm sure it was pretty phenomenal.
It was.
Yeah, he completely transformed because he's not that person.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, he isn't.
But then again, I mean, if you know Jeffrey Wright's work, every single role is he's
Oh,
completely
he
different.
completely
Exactly.
It's completely
disappears.
different.
Absolutely. Now, is it true that you initially wanted to pursue a career in music?
Yeah.
Classical music at that.
Yeah, I went to conservatory for college.
Really?
Wow.
And
Eastman
I read
School of
somewhere
Music.
that you said most black people grow up singing gospel music, and you grew up singing Gregorian chants.
Yeah, I grew up singing Gregorian chant and 16th century motets. Yeah.
So how do you make the leap from Gregorian chants to playing a sergeant in White House Down?
Well, I mean, I acted in college for fun, and I knew I was pretty good at it, but that's all it was. And I also grew up kind of addicted to pop music, but because of the kind of environment that I grew up in, I was a little ashamed of it because it was like it wasn't real music. And then I just reached a point in my career in college when I just said, you know what, I have to be me. And this notion that some music is real music, some music is not, it's just not true. And so, yeah. And so when I left school, I got married straight out of school. And then when as I was pursuing my music career, I had a back injury that really kind of made me reevaluate what I was doing. Because at the time, I was working 3 jobs, 7 days a week. And my daughter was about a year old. And it's going to sound crazy, but I started acting out of desperation. I just figured, well, nobody's gonna help me. The recording studio I'm working with has been taking me for a ride. I can sing and I can act. Let me try that. So I started going on local audition. I opened up the Boston Phoenix, which was their version of the Village Voice.
Yes.
And I just started going on local theater auditions. And I slowly started getting cast. And about a year and a half later, I applied to Yale Drama School on a lark and got in.
Wow.
And the reason
On a lark?
I mean, the reason
Just
I applied
because.
is even crazy. I mean, it's even crazy. I mean, the only reason I applied is because I happened to be working as an artist model for this painter who had gone to the drama school. And he and I were talking one day while he was painting this big picture of me, these green khaki pants and this football jersey. And he asked me about training. And I said, well, you don't need training to go to act. You just, learn as you go. And I said, and I want to go to the actor's studio in it, because that's all I knew. And I said, and the only other place I'd even consider is Yale. And the only reason I said that was because of Meryl Streep, because that's all I knew about Yale.
Well, it looks like it's paid off for you in all of your career, and now you're also in a new Spike Lee remake of the Korean film, which is called Old Boy. It's about a guy who's been kidnapped and held for 20 years. Now, why did you decide to take part in this film? Because it doesn't seem like, especially for Spike Lee, his typical joint.
Well, see, I don't know necessarily what's typical for Spike. Quite frankly, this more than anything else was an opportunity to work with Spike. Yeah.
Okay. Work with a legend. How did that experience go? Why should we go see it?
Well, I think you should go see it because I think it's going to be a great film. I mean, really exciting, some incredible performances. I mean,
Okay.
Oh my goodness, why can't I think of his name? The star of the movie. He was in. He started. Josh Brolin. Yeah, Josh Brolin. Jonah X. He's literally one of my favorite actors, American actors working today.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And also, before we go, you also just launched your own production company recently, and one of your first projects was with Danny DeVito?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a little tricky to say that was. I'm one of the producers on the project.
Okay.
I took the script to Danny when I brought it to him when we were working on it. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he really liked it. And so he produced it and directed it, and Steve Bing financed it and executive produced it. And so, and it's a kind of a horror thriller set in an abandoned hospital, and it's me and William Fichtner and Constance Zimmer, and I play a drug dealer, and Bill plays a cop.
A little something scary for him this time, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely be sure to catch you this weekend at the theaters, White House Down.
It's going to be an exciting movie.
Oh,
All right,
we
looking
can't wait
forward
to see
to it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're watching Arise Entertainment 360.